Welcome to Stuff's Wrap from, well, it's the third day of the Louis Vuitton Cup final, but the second that actually had races in it, eventually, and in an odd sort of way. He's Joe Pearson, I'm Todd Nile, and let's talk about the first one, because the first one, I haven't seen that before in a Louis Vuitton Cup final, a disqualification before the race, which was against Luna Rossa, who had a breakage in their mainsail, had to replace it. The racing was being delayed and delayed and delayed because the winds were too high, and they thought, well, let's give it a crack. However, while they had support crew on the boat, the all clear was given for racing, and suddenly they find themselves in a racing period with crew on board who shouldn't be there, disqualified. Pretty dramatic stuff, Joe.
Well, it was also a bit of a buzzkill because we were waiting for them to actually start racing after however long this time. I mean, we've had delays yesterday and then more delays today, and it seemed odd given the winds were picking up and the forecast that we had was, well, the winds we saw were much higher than that forecast, so we were sort of all anticipating that they'd be racing pretty soon on schedule, but it wasn't to be. And yeah, it was just a strange incident really, but it was nothing compared to what we saw in the second race really.
Yeah, so after that, after we got through all that, and then there was a sort of 50-minute delay again to try and get the wind down under the average 21 knots needed. And then what followed, I don't know, everything's the greatest race of all time, but it felt like probably the most intense AC75 race we've seen.
It certainly is for the Barcelona regatta we've had in the last few, month or so now, and you could see the sort of aggressive tactics from both boats and really getting close to one another, and Luna Rossa sort of blocking the line for Britannia, which led to Britannia protesting 3 times, which were all rejected. There was a lot of effing and jeffing on the boat, which we heard through the comms, of course. But we just were speaking to Ben Ainsley just up there in the mix zone, and he'd calmed down by that point because, you know, he's been doing this for a long time, so he knows that firing up too much is almost a waste of time. But yeah, very dramatic, very exciting, and still locked, aren't they?
Yeah.
Locked at 2-2 now.
2-2, yeah, another day's racing, 2-2. I mean, it was fascinating watching that final stage of that race. It was always quite close, and then a bit of a gap opened up. But in the run down to the finish line, Ineos Britannia was closing and closing. It didn't look like it was going to get there, about 4 seconds at the finish for Luna Rossa to square up the series 2-0. So we're back again tomorrow. Was going to be a reserve day, but it's not, so we get to catch up the lost races from the previous day. Interesting battle to follow.
Absolutely, and as we just heard from Jimmy Spittle, the Luna Rossa helmsman up there as well, it's evenly poised, and that's what we all want, right?
Absolutely, yep. Well, join us tomorrow and see how the next day panned out.